Okay, here I have a Pioneer receiver, SX-600, and I can already hear something rattling around, so not sure what the story with this is, but something's definitely wrong with it. One screw missing already. Maybe that's what's in there. Rather corroded looking. Lost whatever it is. Look, there it is, and it was the other screw. Yeah, so pretty dirty condition, which is pretty normal for these sort of things. A lot of dust in there. A little bit of corrosion. So I guess looks like someone's had a look at the fuse. Do we have any sign of anything? Oop, I hear some horrible noise, like something. Oop, there we got smoke. I know that sound when I hear it. Can't really tell from the smell of it what it was. Not much of a smell at all, so where it came from is the next thing. Do I see a brown line on that thing? No, just dirt. Yeah, there's quite a bit of corrosion on some of these components, which is not a good sign. I wonder what it actually came out of. Guess the next thing's probably, can we get the bottom off? Yes we can. So if there's anything under here that's obvious. One of those rare occasions you might actually be able to see at least one of the faulty parts, or one of the parts that's cooked by the faulty part, more the case. But pretty rare you can open them up and actually see what's wrong with them, unless they've got a circuit board that's been snapped in half or something. And none the wiser, I might just check the outputs for a start. Usually the first place to start in any sort of amplifier. Now where are our filter caps in this thing? That's another thing I should just check. Yeah, that's in there. Oh, it's got a middle pin, I guess. Don't want that, I want DC. They've just got a third centre pin just as a mechanical mounting pin, so they're discharged. So let's go back to diode test. Some fairly low readings, but don't know if that means much or not. Oh, well, there we go. That's shot, so we're probably getting smoke out of one of the resistors around here. That's very low. Surprisingly not fully short, but not far off. Now that may not be the output transistors, but it most likely is. So first thing to do is just, I have to suck a bit of that solder off so it doesn't drop down. Flick them off. They're easily put back if they're fine, but you really got to test them out of circuit, and so you can test what remains in circuit, because they may have blown other bits. If they are faulty, which I'm pretty sure these ones are going to be. Yep. Not measuring very good anywhere. This probably was the base once. And that's all measuring very low. Does make me suspect these other ones, because they had some weird readings. I think I might just disconnect everything. At least you know you're working with good stuff. If some of them measure alright. Oops, that one disappeared all of a sudden. God, that one's barely soldered on by the look of it. That was, geez, hardly soldered at all, just a small bit underneath it. Nothing on the sides of the pin or anything, which is not a good sign. 0.5, that's looking pretty good. Good junctions, normal sort of drop around 0.6 volts. And nothing between the collector emitter. So we can basically solder those ones back in, which may be handy because we can probably check this channel out. Possibly just disconnecting those from the other channel may be enough to get it running again. Surprised it didn't blow a fuse or something. It's much better soldered on than it was at the factory. But occasionally things don't get quite soldered in properly and doesn't cause a problem. It was certainly a risk of causing a dry joint if this thing had a lot of vibration or something, but I'd say that was still a good joint and probably would have lasted this thing to the end of its days. Yeah, what have we got in the way of drivers and a bit hard to tell with these. So got some driver stages probably down in here. We do have some fuses. Let's that one's gone by the look of it. I would have thought something to be blown. That one shouldn't be because that's the main one for the power transformer primary. So it's quite possible we've blown what is possibly a speaker output. It's near the headphone socket. Speaker output fuse because it had DC on it. I'll just flick that out so to remind me. Oh yeah, that's blown, well and truly blown in there. So if someone hooked speakers up to that with a shorted output, that would have been the end of that fuse. Now some of these resistors here, these ones sitting up off the board, are probably worth checking because could be fusible type things. 0.2 ohms. 10. Just check the ones on the other channel, see if they're about the same. Maybe not. That is a, oh yeah, 0.1. 10. These I don't think are fusibles, but 22 ohms or something. No, 5.6, which looks like a 5.6 actually. That's a worry if it's high. No, both 5.6, because they're the sort of things that would have let that smoke out. And we've got a low value here, another 5.6 I think. Yep, and I assume this is another one. Yep, but they're all measuring okay so far. So whatever let the smoke out, didn't let a lot out. Oh, I don't know what these two are, they look like power supply things maybe. What should that be? Somewhere around the 56, 560, 56 ohm. Oh, it's a black band. 470, I think this one is. Close. Yeah, it's getting there. Maybe a capacitor charging. What else do I need to check? Probably some of these driver transistors. A little older reading, but it may be fine with some resistors and stuff in there, as long as there's nothing short. Come on. Now, was that the shot channel? I think it was. It was, or is. That's a 2SC, so it should be an NPN. all good. Don't think these Pioneers normally blow anything further in, but you've got to check. Yeah, it does have some of these horrible little 5-pin match pair transistor things. They're known for causing trouble sometimes. And there's some corrosion on a little diode down here. I better check that, I guess. Seems to be okay. Oh, I better check these. So that's another thing the smoke could have come out of. Oh yeah, that one looks a bit cooked maybe. Yeah, they've both lost their writing a bit. So these two white resistors, which are probably 1 or 2 watt or something, maybe 3 or 4 watt. We've got 0.3 ohms. 0.3 ohms. These ones have definitely been hot. 0.3 ohms. And 0.3 ohms, but you can tell if the black writing's gone off them, they've probably been cooked a bit. This may have been run with a bad speaker or something, or speakers doubled up or some weird thing on it. Look at this, if those transistors are still disconnected, we won't bother replacing the fuse because they may still be DC even with the transistors disconnected. Should be safer to plug in. No weird sounds, no smoke. Do we have a light anywhere? Tape monitor, loudness, muting, balance in the middle, treble bass all in the middle. I reckon this is meant to have lights. I can see something moving on this meter. Did I come across a channel? What's going on there? Meter just seems to be slowly going down. Oh, this has actually got FM memories in it. Wow. Oh, it's gone back up the top. Now it's slowly going down again. I'm not sure what I did to cause that. Hitting the memory button maybe? Oh well, what we can do is check these outputs for DC, because we should still have one good channel here in theory. It might be worth hooking up a speaker. Just being careful not to touch any of this stuff because it's all live. 240 volts no doubt. Nothing on that channel. Though do we have speaker selector switches? Always got to make sure they're on. There's a little slight reading there. I'd say our speakers are connected up. Tape, FM muting, loudness. Well, it's only got one set of speakers, so not likely to have a switch. The question is, I reckon we can find one of these channels goes back to these fuse holders, hopefully. Yeah, the one with a little bit of DC would be the good channel because it's gone to that fuse, and the other one should come back. Yeah, so that's the amp side of that fuse. If I turn that on, now where's ground? I guess is this heatsink ground and the chassis ground? Maybe. Don't know. That switch would surely be ground on it. Not reading anything there, so fingers crossed. We should have, I know what we can use, of course, the RCA plug. Any RCA socket on the back is definitely a ground. Or the outside part of it is. That's all good. I'd say we've got an amp running on one channel. Always nice to at least check the unit before you waste any time fixing anything more. We might as well check that the other channel actually works and isn't distorted, or the radio works, etc. No other problems. I don't see any lights. It's probably around the era where they stopped doing that with a lot of stuff. Where is the volume? Well, the volume is rather high. The fact it's crackling and carrying on is a good sign. And we're on FM. Oh yeah, we've got a light on, yeah, preset 3. How does that work if it's got preset buttons but it's got a manual tuning? I wonder if that's got one of those meant to be a light up pointer. Not turn up too loud. Oh, there's the AM hash. Probably not going to pick much up in here without an antenna. FM isn't sounding too lively, but now we're on FM muting off. Bingo. That's ground. Oh, there. Very deaf on FM. But we have an amplifier working on one channel. Something getting warm. So it could just be because I'm in this shed, but it should pick up better than that, I would think. Most of them pick up a lot better than that. Okay, back on this Pioneer. I've actually removed the output transistors. I don't know if I got around to that in the last video, but pull them out. I've actually still got some new ones of those transistors, 2SD880s. I thought I might still have some somewhere. They were very common in these sort of low-powered 70s type units. And even got a few second-hand ones there, so I might even quickly solder a couple of second-hand ones in there just to see that it does run, doesn't blow them up or anything, which is pretty unlikely. I don't think these sort of era amps, they're normally pretty simple circuits. There's only some of the weirder design DC coupled ones and stuff that would, if you didn't get every single transistor that was faulty, they'd blow parts again. But what I did find with this is the radio, which I thought possibly wasn't working or wasn't picking up very well. You've got to press the manual switch there, because it's actually one thing that occurred to me just after I'd looked at it last time is I thought, oh, it must be a Varactor tuner if it's got presets. So maybe there's something to do with that, and it brings that little light on the dial when we press manual. I think if we press it, do we press it again we go out, or is it just here just when we press one of these? And that meter has something to do with either the tuning, how well tuned you are, or I forget what it had something to do with the presets, I forget now, but lucky there is Hi-Fi Engine and probably others have manuals online. So I did have a quick look at the service manual, and it even had the instructions in the front of one of them to tell you something about how to use this and how that meter works. What are we on AM? And we go to FM. Turn the muting off.
Streams worldwide.
Stereo there.
He's an Irish singer-songwriter who experiments with,
and yeah, that meter I think works as a level meter,
and hip-hop.
or as in tuning level, kind of like how good a quality of a signal you got. Maybe it feeds off the AGC or something. But anyway, that solved the problem, so the tuner's fine in this. And yeah, all I did was, can't actually see the light in that fibre optic thing, but that little LED must be running now. There it is, lit up. Not much of an LED, but it is a pretty early one, so probably not the strongest. So all I did was, yeah, I can't remember if that was in the last video, but I pulled those transistors off the board. or off the heatsink. Already unsoldered them off the board and found some replacement ones. What I might do is take this outside and give it a good brush out so we can see if there's much in the way of corrosion. It's parts of the board look a little corroded, so I'll just take it out and clean it, get the worst of the dust out, and then I'll see what it looks like after that. Okay, so clean the dust out, and really besides a bit of corrosion on the aluminium, it's actually in pretty good condition. It's a couple of patches where the dust is still stuck to the board, a little bit of rust on that bit there. But yeah, no, it's pretty good. Transformer's a bit rusty, so it's obviously had a bit of moisture. I think it's been used in a shed or something, so maybe it's just a uninsulated shed and it's getting a bit of moisture from that on the cold nights or whatever. But what I can do is just tack a couple of these, making sure I don't put the old ones back in. Might even just tack a couple of these transistors on the board like so, just to make sure they don't blow again. Pretty unlikely on one of these Pioneer things, but I guess what I should do, since they're only second-hand ones, is actually check if they're any good. Would be the first thing to do. Not much point trying to measure them on a piece of metal that'll just short them all out. But make sure there's no short circuits in them. Must be the base there. Yeah, that one's good. Well, at least should be good. Statically it tests okay. It's not shorted. So I might just dag those in there. Onto straight onto the circuit board underneath, which is one good thing about them having the circuit board like this. That's the correct way around, I think. Yeah, must be. And this one, pins far enough apart, I think they are. I don't think these had insulating washers under them. I think they're just mounted on the heatsink, but I'll make sure these, because that metal tab's usually the collector, so best to, which is normally also the middle pin there, best not to touch them on the metalwork. Oh no, it does have insulating washers, so yep, definitely don't want to touch them on the metalwork. And what was the fuse? Where did I put the old fuse? There is another one if I need it. Oh, over here. 4 amp, well look at it. Does it say on the board here 4 amp 125 volt? That's if I've got a 4 amp, who knows what I've got here. They're all the small ones I think. 1 amps, 1 amp. I think these were 2 amp, yeah, 2 amp, 2 amp. Yeah, that's a bit of a hassle. 10 amp, 15 amp, 5 amp, 3.15 amp. They may have to do for the moment. Chances are they're never going to go anywhere near their rated. Those are sand-filled ones. Some sort of blast-proof ones, I guess. That's a half amp. Oh well, looks like it's getting a 3.15. And we can plug it in and see if we get any DC. I mean, if it doesn't blow the fuse, we should be pretty right, but make sure there's no DC on the output. And then we can hook it up to the speakers. Is that on? Oh yeah, we've got our red LED tuner light there. And I'll check out these. Just being careful because that's live there, that fuse, and pins sticking up everywhere right near the speaker terminals. That channel's 0. So just got to be super careful where you stick your fingers when you're fiddling with these things, or they're turned on, and nothing there. So I think that is most likely fine. Just check the fuses are still intact. Yep. So I'll hook the speakers up and just test that, and I think that will be a goer. Usually pretty straightforward, these ones. Ah, get in there. Where's my other lead there? That should be it. Careful I don't get anything underneath it to short it. Yeah. Left channel, right channel. Balance control's a little odd. Seems a bit louder in one channel. Oh, I'll hook my antenna back up. Which one's the FM, that I think. The channel's not sounding very happy. Quite distorted and low, but touching the volume control brings it back, so maybe we just got a dirty volume control. Wants it clean anyway. Probably might need to give that function switch a good squirt as well, because they're common for causing low or distorted or intermittent channels, especially given the amount of dust this thing's had in it. I'll start with that. So the pots are right down. I can get to that pot, which is the balance control. I can get into the top of that one, no problem. And maybe into the bass and treble. I think I can get into the side of those as a little slot. But the one I want, I can't get to without probably moving these, whatever it is, in the way. Little circuit board there, let's get those ones done. Always give them a good rotate about the place. And what do we switch to? They all seem to work alright. That could be something else. I haven't actually checked another input source yet. So it could do with the FM muting or anything at this stage. Make sure we're with dry joints. Let's go to AM. Still nothing on that channel. Not really hearing much at all. There's a bit of noise there, just on the one side. I would like to just get that volume control clean so I can get that out of my way. I think we might have to take the front panel off. Thankfully, I don't know that we have to take the knobs off with this one, thank God. Sometimes they slip out around the knobs, which is a great design. It's really starting to get hot in here now. It's a very hot day outside. But that's why having a few second-hand parts is always a good idea, just to just to be able to chuck them in, and if it blows them up, you don't really care. Before you go and put the new ones in, which you have to order new ones or whatever, at least you can sort out whatever the problem is. I often used to do that just to get the thing going, check everything else is running before you give someone a quote or whatever, because it wasn't uncommon for some other problem to exist, and not much good if you quoted someone and then find out you've got a heap more work to do. How does this tuner knob come off? Seems to need to, but it doesn't want to. Should just pull off, I guess. It's just very tight, I think. Oh, there we go. Ah, yes, that's the front panel. And I'm not sure that got me very far. Looks like I still have to unscrew this board in the back, maybe. Or is it clipped in? I'm sure that's clipped in somehow. That's definitely... Oh, okay, so there's a clip. I think they've made it so I have to unclip one little board here before we can get to the other one. So that clips part of the front panel. Nothing. Oh, yeah, there we go. Get this black thing out of the way. Maybe I can then push this far enough to get the white one out of the way. You've got to be careful because you've got a dial cord here. You do not want to ever flick one of those off if you can help it, because they're a real pain to get back on. Certainly a lot of labour usually. Something else seems to be holding this, or is it just the wiring and stuff in the way? So that's trying to pull the dial cord off, of course. If we bend that out, that wire's a lot stiffer than it looks. Oh, there goes our little thing. Probably a good thing that got out of the way. Now I was very careful here to try and get this under the dial cord. Of course, every bit on the board wants to stick to it. Did that just fall off there? Must have. So where was that one? Maybe like that. So now I can get to the pot. It's just the one pot, isn't it? That's it. Looks like again I have to go in through the side. Yeah, goo coming out everywhere, so that's good. I'll at least give that a clean. So I know that's out of the equation of causing any of that distortion or low volume. Because there's nothing worse than not knowing exactly what's faulty and what's good and what's faulty. Now, I have to check where I've put that switch back on the right spot. Does it line up with the front panel? And it does, so that definitely faces that way. And, yeah, no wonder that had trouble coming out with those switches pointing down like that. Not a great idea. So then we've got this here, the dial. Move that dial up out of the way a bit more would have been a good idea. Just careful with this damn cord. Ah, God, that 70s stuff was never much fun. Okay, now where's the clips there? So we're in the right spot. Now you're trying to get that stupid thing hanging everywhere. Put that up out of the way. Ooh, that's got him. Now, did that go over the cord, under the cord? I don't know. Under it, I guess, like that. Got to clip this little black thing, whatever it was. That's the FM stereo light and stuff, I guess. Get that clip back on the front. Okay, now we're in business. So interesting, those transistors are getting very hot, but it didn't seem to put any DC out into the speaker or anything. But I think I'll keep the speaker off that channel for the moment. I guess we can just give it another quick run from cold. Still plugged in. Not quite. And I'll put that front back on guess. Be a good time to give it a good clean, I guess, but I think that's actual damage to the front. Got the switch line up. Now, of course, that switch that I thought might have been in the wrong spot, now it doesn't line up, but it's just moved again, I think, because of the fitting it back in there. There we go. Okay. Bloody typical. Always forget to check that, or not always, but I shouldn't forget to check that. Sounds okay. Interesting, that sounds perfect now. No distortion, no low volume. Surely that wouldn't have been putting enough rubbish in there to make the amp unhappy, but maybe if we put those transistors on a heatsink, they'll be fine. They should normally run that hot. I didn't think I was cranking it that loud, but who knows? But that's why it pays to get things like that out of the way. So we know it's not or if it is a problem with the amp, it's not that distortion-y thing we were getting, because that just seems to have been coming out of the volume control, and it's not causing low volume either, so that's a bit of an odd thing. Transistors are cool at the moment, so I might give it a little bit of a run. I mean, some amps they have a lot of quiescent current, that is just current running through them while they're sitting idle, just to bias them into the right zone, I think it is. But I don't think the amplifier stage and something like this should have that. The other channel didn't seem to be even warm. But some amps you definitely don't want to be running the outputs off the heat sinks necessarily, because they will run quite hot even without a signal going through the amp. And that might even be what I do with this one, just run it low volume and see if they get warm or hot. Had the power on. Balance control's still a little diggy. Just remember these cans are metal, even though they've got a bit of paint on them, so if you're working on live stuff, just keep them well away from touching anything. This switch is reasonably safe, but oh no, it's not that good. It does have bare contacts on the back. I thought they were underneath on this one, but let's see if we've got any little bit of warmth there. So it may just be, it is just the quiescent current sort of thing. Maybe because those are on the heatsink, I'm just not feeling anything. I think I'm confident to put a couple of good new transistors in there. I'll have to find, there should be some heatsink paste around here somewhere. There it is. So we'll put some new paste on those. The washers should be okay, just left on there as they are without cleaning all the old paste off. But the back of the transistors, when we put them in, we'll put some paste on those. Just double check these. Look like these, even though they're new transistors, but look, have possibly been tacked into something at some point, so it's always best to double check that they are fine. And they measure again, should be okay. So I'll just put some paste on, attach them to the heatsink, and then can worry about screwing them on the, or bending them over on the other side to give a decent wad of heatsink compound paste over the entire surface, because you don't want any hot spots which can develop. Should be enough that it squeezes out a bit when you attach them. What do we just have? We just stick them in place, I guess, and put the, it's got a little piece under the transistor to sort of hold it in place. And I assume there's something on that metal bracket that goes through the holes. Might not be. They got screw holes. Oops. The washer came off, so if it comes off, probably won't have to, again, to avoid hot spots, potentially give it a new coating it is also possible that these are dried up somewhat, so I might do both of them just to be safe. That way you can be utterly sure that they're doing their job properly and taking the heat out. Most people never turn these things up enough to need it, but oh yeah, that one came off easy as well, so probably would have been a good idea. I guess with something this old it doesn't hurt to recoat the back of the washer as well. I'm sort of thinking about newer stuff where normally it'd still be in good condition, but I guess the age of these things now is getting on an awful lot. This thing's probably getting on 50 years old, so it may have to change a few ways we do things these days. Get the dust off that, and that just sits there. So the transistor's just held between the little lump in the aluminium down below and the metal little flat bit across the top of this bowl. Look at it. So nothing holding the screw holes or anything. Bit of an interesting way to do it. And just make sure that, yeah, you can see the paste squeezing out on each side. That should come out from between the washer and the heatsink and the transistor and the washer. That way you know you've definitely got them in place, because you want that pressing down nicely so there's no risk of them overheating again. These over a bit. Probably should really unsolder that. Remove that solder before I do this, so that the pins bend closer to the board. I think we'll be alright. Doesn't matter if you put a nice big water solder on there. Should do the job. Especially with these things, they need a bit of mechanical support anyway. I can push it down with the soldering iron tip a bit into the solder anyway, and add a nice good ball of solder there. Make sure they're well attached. Should really check the DC before I put it on with any transistors. Now we're on, aren't we? Yeah. Very little DC. Dummy loads on so I can really crank it up, but it seems to be running okay. At least with the speakers you can hear whether something's distorting or carrying on before you really fire it up, but it's not getting particularly warm or anything yet, just a little bit of warmth there on the outputs. But with these I can crank it up to any volume. Probably wants a bit of a run around half volume or something. Don't have any trim pots to set the quiescent or anything, doesn't look like it. crank it up, you can often hear in the resistors a slight, you can actually hear the music playing a little bit. Bit of vibration there. Run it a little bit at flat out, but you shouldn't, most of these amps shouldn't really be ran at flat out. They tend to clip and stuff a bit, and definitely getting a bit warmer now. So since you can't hear if they're distorting or not a good idea to run them flat out, because most of them will distort enough to actually potentially damage something. Run at full volume for any length of time. Now we're certainly getting some warmth out of this, so these do run pretty warm. That's half volume, so you'd expect a bit. I mean, they're only a few watts of these things. I did see what the rating of this thing was, but maybe 15 watts a channel if you're lucky. And yeah, I'd hate to think what the total distortion is once you turn it up towards the top of the volume range. But yeah, that's quite reasonable. And that's at half volume. It's been running for a while. But no, neither channel's hotter than the other, so that's a good sign that, ooh, starting to get quite hot now. Which is what they're designed to do. Like I say, most of these never got ran anywhere near full volume, but that is getting quite warm now. Almost getting uncomfortable to hold now. And that's on both channels. This one's possibly even a little hotter than the original channel. Got the balance in the middle. Yeah, that's getting very hot now. Whew, yeah, it's getting a bit uncomfortable to hold. So we're certainly cranking it up. I should be careful because we don't want these dummy loads getting too hot on the bench here. They should really be mounted in a metal box with a bit of ventilation or something, because they can, you know, if they're sitting on carpet or something like this, it'll start cooking the carpet or melting into it or something. Yeah, I can hear the beat going in the resistors a bit there. I'll turn it back down to a more, about quarter volume. Yeah, it's pretty hot. The fact it hasn't blown up again, probably a good sign. Won't have to give this thing a good test run in the background, I think, for a while. That's what I normally used to do, run them for the best part of a day or something, just to make sure. But most of the time these were blown with someone shorting out the speaker terminals, or using bad speakers on it, or just generally cranking it up for a party or something and running it into distortion, into clipping or some sort of distortion for way too long, and overheating the thing and blowing the output stage, when in theory you'd think if you can turn the volume up high enough they shouldn't be able to fail within what the volume control can do, but they do. I think it was actually a Sharp, fairly, I think early 2000s or something system, maybe late 90s, I think they had to modify it or something because it would blow the amp chips if people ran them turned up fairly high, and of course people said, well, you know, it should be able to do that under warranty, I should be covered. I get a feeling the chips weren't really rated for that, so it's even quite hot now with the quarter volume. But now that I've heated it up, it's probably going to stay hot for a while, that heatsink. They weren't the most efficient designs, most of these earlier amps. It's probably putting out 5 watts or more at the moment constantly. But I think that's within range. I might just put the covers back on it and give it a run. Make sure it doesn't kill itself again. But both channels are exactly the same sort of heat. I mean, I guess it could be the temperature's moving down the heatsink from one to the other, but pretty unlikely. You can usually tell if one's running excessively hot. That end of the heatsink will definitely be hotter. See how it went? Yeah, it must be. So I'll have a look at his other amp. He's got an Acco amp as well, this guy. and I've got no idea what was wrong with that one either. But I think he was saying this amp, the speakers that went with this one, that one of the woofers was actually open circuit. So it's possible either the speaker failed and killed the amp, or the amp failed and killed the speaker before the fuse blew. Hard to know, because that's the problem. You just get part of the story of what happened. Should be another screw here somewhere. Oh, maybe it was missing already when I got it. Oh, there it is. They're always hiding somewhere. Okay, and I think there was a cover screw. Oh no, the cover screw was inside it, I think, wasn't it? One was missing and something was rattling around inside this unit, so it's not impossible that that blew it, but I would assume that the guy had a look at the fuses afterwards. Maybe he dropped it in there or something, I don't know, but pretty unlikely that was the cause. But I guess this will be the background music amp for a while. I'll give it a test run. And let you know if any problems turn up. Thanks for watching.